Well, hello, we're back again here at Pirate University. You guys went through a few different sessions, some on VMix. I saw that some were on the fundraising side, trying to learn a little bit more about how we interact with things and how we're going to use technology to help our clients. Now, in this session, it's a little bit different. A lot of time, we like to finish the end of Pirate University by really kind of putting all the pieces to the puzzle together. And in this case, we're going to have a discussion about leadership. You know, 10 years ago or 11, I can't even keep track of it at this point, we started working with a new group for us, a nonprofit, a local group. And, you know, honestly, I really didn't know a lot about them. But over the course of the last 10 or 11 years, I would say we've gotten to know really a lot about them. And not only just what they're trying to achieve, and all of the people working within their team, but the families and the people that are actually receiving the grants and the donations and the money. And it just makes such a big difference. I mean, you really feel like you're a part of it. And our job is, again, to help people communicate and help them achieve their goals. But when you get to see the end goal, it's totally different. It just is not the same thing as you're running a conference and 3 executives walked up, they walked down, and everybody went home and they enjoyed the golf outing. It's just not the same thing. So, you know, I'm very pleased that today we're going to be joined by Tom Conklin, who's president and CEO of Make-A-Wish Hudson Valley. And we've worked with Tom through all of this time period. And we've developed a great working relationship and really a nice friendship. And that extends from me to the entire team because everybody knows Tom. When Tom calls up, everybody knows who Tom is. So what's really interesting is, you know, after 20 years with Make-A-Wish, this is Tom's year that he's finally going to, you know, they're going to hang his jersey up in the rafters and he's going to retire. And so it seemed like the perfect time to have a discussion about leadership and really what, you know, people can do, and nobody knows more about that than Tom. So I'd like to welcome Tom Conklin to our stage.
Thank you. Good to see all the guys out there again. It's been a long pandemic. This is nice. It's like a reunion. I love it.
Well, it's true because we really haven't seen you in all this time.
No.
So, you know, we haven't really seen a lot of people other than the little monitors and screens that we're looking at, but we finally started to see people again. So we're glad that you could join us. And Tom was part of this stage in a slightly different manner, I don't know, maybe 7 years ago?
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, I mean, it was right around that time frame. It was really one of our first kind of client discussions. And, you know, Tom had great feedback and, of course, thought of things that we never would have considered. So it's really great to have you back, Tom.
Honored to be here.
I guess we should probably start off with, how did you get started with Make-A-Wish?
So it's always a good story. Throughout my whole career, I used to be in corporate America for so many years, education first, then corporate America, and now nonprofit. But all along the way, I did volunteering, you know, community give back, coaching, whatever it is, because if you've been blessed, you probably have an obligation to give back. And when I retired from corporate America and did some financial planning for people, a guy on the Make-A-Wish board, he had said, we need somebody like you on the board. And I had heard about Make-A-Wish and its mission. It's so special. For those of you who don't know, Make-A-Wish started in 1980 when a young 7-year-old boy wanted to be an Arizona State Trooper for a day. He was dying of leukemia. And a group got together, mostly law enforcement. They gave him a tailored uniform. They gave him the Smokey the Bear hat, badge, put him in a helicopter, put him in the squad car. And for one day, he actually was an Arizona State Trooper. Unfortunately, not long after, he passed away, and they buried him with full police honors. And that group said, you know, we saw some hope and strength and joy in this youngster as he had his, you know, day. There's other kids out there. So here we are, just over 40 years later, 500,000 wishes have been granted. There are 59 chapters in the United States, 45 international affiliates, and is literally the largest wish granting organization in the world. But what's great about it is it's got a local presence. We are Make-A-Wish Hudson Valley. It's Make-A-Wish New Jersey, Make-A-Wish Connecticut, Metro New York. So wherever you are, nationally or internationally, Make-A-Wish is right there with a national presence and a local flavor.
Wow. And how long has the Hudson Valley chapter?
1986, the year the Giants won the first Super Bowl.
Oh, let's not bring that up.
And the Mets won the World Series.
That was not a good year. I don't know what you're talking about. As a Red Sox fan, I vividly remember that. And it was not overly pleasant. Something about a ball and Buckner, I don't know what happened. But either way, wow. So it was really only 6 years later that this chapter started?
Exactly. They started to roll out across the country. So
wow,
1980 was national. We were 1986, yeah.
That's very good.
We're coming up on our 3,000th wish. We're 8 wishes away from 3,000 wishes.
Well, I'm pretty sure we worked on the 2,000th wish. So
you've been along for the ride on a lot of the wishes.
So are we in for 1,000 wishes? That's not bad.
Not bad at all.
Well, fortunately, I know Maurice and I certainly have met a lot of the families and people, and that's quite a gift. Honestly, from our side, on the technical side, being able to meet recipients is a big deal.
Yeah, you get to meet the wish kids and the wish parents. It's really special. I remember I was with one of our board members who's a pediatric oncologist, and we were doing a fundraising at a high school, and the principal said, I want the kids to understand what Make-A-Wish is all about, and we brought him because he treats a lot of the kids. And one of the kids asked him a question, don't you get burned out dealing with this situation day after day? And he said, on the contrary, I get to meet the bravest and best people that ever walk God's good earth. And I remember that distinctly. And Joe, you and Mo and the crew here, you've met so many of them along the way, and his words are really true. What they go through, and they're thanking us for the gift of a wish. They're special people, and it's an honor to serve them.
Well, and you've really got a great team.
Yep.
I know a lot of your team, and they've always been exceptional. And you can just feel how much they care about each wish and about what they're doing. And I think that makes a very big difference.
It does, Joe, and I think it's really simple. Simple comment is, to them it's not a job, it's a passion. And a lot of people say, if you find your passion in life, you'll never have to work a day in your life. And these people don't make a lot of money, but their commitment is beyond belief. And we saw that especially during the pandemic when we couldn't do travel wishes or large gatherings. But that didn't stop us. We did batting cages and puppies and hot tubs and backyard tree houses and things of that nature.
I don't usually put hot tubs and puppies
in the same
all together,
but that's whatever the youngster wants. That's what they
sounds like a good wish.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna
lie. But they stepped up to the plate and different fundraising and stuff to get us through the pandemic, and they did an incredible job, and I'm very proud of them.
Yeah, no, that's one of the things. That's what's interesting about the leadership topic. So, Tom, how does that even happen? How do you get that team to feel that energy and feel that passion? How did it just happen?
Yeah, Joe, that's a great question, and I think it's the mission. The mission kind of picks people. You come along and you find out Make-A-Wish is, I think I want to get involved in that charity. And the more you find out about it, it just pulls you in, because the mission statement is so simple and so pure. Together we grant life-changing wishes for kids with critical illnesses. Very simple. You know what it is. You don't have to explain it. And once you get involved and you see the dynamics of fundraising or wish granting, or dealing with the families or kids or the medical professionals, you see you're really providing a service, and it's easy to say, oh, this is good. I will tell you that all of us, we get more back than we give when you have these kind of experiences, and we're blessed and honored that we've been entrusted with this mission. And as I finished, somebody said, what do you feel best about? My goal was to lead the chapter better than the way I found it, and I think I've accomplished that.
I think that we would also agree.
Oh, thank you.
I think it's very clear. But the fact that, and not only do you have people that are very passionate about what they're doing, and again, that shows. It literally shows to everyone who's interacting with them, because in a lot of cases, we're considered a vendor by different groups. Whereas I like to think we're a little more than a vendor, but not every group is like that. Your people don't act like that towards us.
Yeah, Joe, I think that's part of who we are and how we treat people. And whether it's a fundraiser local or if it's a national, if it's the Wish Ball, we don't treat you as a vendor, we treat you as a partner. You need to know what we want to accomplish that night. You need to be part of our mission. You need to know our people. And what's great is, over the years, Joe and Mo and the whole crew, they know how we think and they can anticipate. And our board has gotten to know the crews, which is great. And, I remember one golf outing that Mo did, and Brian Dorr said, Mo, let's run that now. I mean, it's a first name basis. But the point is, that's how we treat our partners, because the better you do, the better we're going to do in that event. And you need to be partners, because that's a win-win for everybody.
Well, but that's part of what's different. And I think you're downplaying the leadership portion to that, because that doesn't happen everywhere. Turnover is usually exceptionally high in nonprofits. And I have not noticed that in the 10 or 11 or 12 years that we've been working together. I have seen many of the same people.
Yeah, we've been fortunate that we do have turnover. Kids coming out of college and working for a couple of years and want to move on. We're a small operation. There's only so many spots you can go and grow. But to be part of that, even for a little while, is great. And the other thing is, we run it. I mean, I have a corporate background. I remember sitting down with you guys, and we brought a run of show. Because I remember when I ran a corporate foundation, I went to so many fundraisers and you didn't know what the mission was. You ate dinner at 9:30. The awards were all over the place. And a lot of people excused themselves to go to the bathroom and never came back. And that's not what we wanted to do. We had it scripted down to the minute, because you have a window of opportunity. You want people to have fun, you want them to be entertained, but you want them to hear about the mission. You want to get them engaged in the mission. And that has been our whole goal when we do the fundraisers and working with people like you. What's the best way to portray our message? What's the best way to do this between audiovisual, music, right down to when we're collecting donations, what song are we playing at that point in time? And involving the Wish families in the night. So when we do rehearsals and the guys get to meet the Wish families who were part of that and the honorees, it's all one team concept. So it's important for us to do that. But I think because that is so fulfilling for our people, they'll stay longer. Again, because it's a passion and they're involved and everybody's involved. Our mantra is, nobody will ever say it's not my job. Because there's only so many of us and we know what the mission is and we know what has to be done. What happens every now and then, we get what is called a rush wish. That means a child's not going to make it. And then we have to figure out what kind of wish can we configure for this child based on his or her needs and wants and desires within a set time frame. And then everybody drops everything and focuses on that wish. So I think a lot of that, Joe, back to your question of turnover, you're going to have some turnover, but the people who believe in this mission and have a passion for this mission have stayed. And there are days when you get so fulfilled, you say, now I know why I'm doing what I'm doing. Not to mention we have bad days and frustrating days and power outages and Wi-Fi is out and all the stuff that we all go through.
That was only this morning.
Yeah, it was only this morning. or an hour and 5 minutes to get over here with the floods. But the point is, the mission remains the centerpiece of who we are and what we are and how we do it. And as long as we keep that focus that way, and it's up to us as leaders at Make-A-Wish is to keep our people focused. And then the other part that we have to really be careful of in the nature of work we do is we have to make sure our people don't get burned out because there is a stress level there. There are challenges there and frustrating things when one of our Wish grantors is working on a pool in a backyard dealing with construction people and stuff like that and permits. You can get burnt out. So every now and then, like we did the other day at the end of our fiscal year, we had pizza, we had an ice cream truck show up and just kick back and put our feet up and say, what a hell of a year it's been with the pandemic and exchanging stories and just give us a chance to recharge those batteries because the next day we're at it again.
That's a really good point. We try not to have any fun here. I think we're a little stiffer than you guys probably, and hence the pirate flag.
I love it. I love it.
But I think your point is very well taken, though. But one of the things you touched on right away is you're talking about making sure that everyone knows your mission. And honestly, that was one of the first things I noticed that was different about how you and Make-A-Wish would specifically run an event. I mean, Maurice, I'm sure you can remember first time Tom coming over saying, all right, hey guys, how you doing? Let me tell you about Make-A-Wish. And I mean, who does that? Nobody does that, right? Nobody comes over to tell us, let me tell you about the organization. So we really do feel a part of it. As we're in, we're like, no. They're going to try to do this wish, and this is going to help so-and-so. So, you know, we got to make sure we get this timing right. It's a totally different feeling because you know the mission. Somebody took the time to explain it to you and make you feel like you're a part of it. And so that you're not just, you know, kind of doing your job for the day. You're a part of something. Yeah. But that clarity is one of the things, I know we've had this discussion, is one of those things that I have found is missing from many of the groups that we work with. And we work with hundreds of groups over the course of the year. And I think sometimes they get distracted by all of the, you know,
show stuff.
The show stuff. And look, there is a show. They have to put on a show. Yeah. But that's not the mission. And I think that's part of the leader's job is to make that clear. And I think you've been exceptional at that. How did you know that you had to do that?
Well, one of my responsibilities in corporate world was HR, but also communications. So, you know, if you're dealing with a reporter or an interview, or you're helping the CEO with a speech that he is going to give at a function with, you know, 1,000 people, he needs to be on point about what he wants to say. So that kind of discipline over the years and those experiences on the corporate side, I think, stood me in good stead to come into the not-for-profit sector. I had a lot more resources when I was on the corporate side than I do now. But the essence of the clarity of why are we gathered here today? How was our year from a physical standpoint? What did we accomplish? And we're here now, where do we want to go? And it's the same thing at Make-A-Wish. When those people come in to see us and hear the stories, how did the money that they donated impact families? And we have an obligation to communicate what they've done and enabled us to do on their behalf for these families and to hear their stories. One classic one is Make-A-Wish, as I said, was started by law enforcement. And you remember a few years ago, we had a youngster here in Westchester. He had some disabilities and some developmental problems, but he wanted to be a police officer for a day. And he was a little bit older. And he actually, Westchester County Police stepped up, and we had one heck of a day. This kid was sworn in. He was in the lineup. He had a uniform. He had a motorcycle escort from his house to the academy for training. He worked with the bomb dogs. They put him in a helicopter. And then in the afternoon, he went out and they chased a perp. It was all set up. And he called for the dogs and the helicopter. He actually arrested the guy and locked him up. And when he finished his tour that day, pipes and drums sent him on his way. So for that day, he was a police officer. We shared his story that night because one of our honorees that night was a Wish Dad who also was an attorney for a lot of the PBAs. And he took the moment, he said, I would like all the police officers and first responders in the room to please stand up and be acknowledged for all that they do every day for us. The first person to stand up was the Wish kid. And we caught that, and Mo, you remember that moment. Andrew, who was the honoree, and I looked at it. He was the first one to stand up because in his heart, I'm a police officer, I'm a first responder. And he just, we just lost it at that point in time. So for the people to see the impact, and one police officer said to me afterwards, you told me about the power of a wish. I've got to see it, because he was sitting right next to the kid who stood up first. So in those events, that message has to be communicated, and everything we do that night has got to be segmented to lead to those moments that we benefit from that, and the people feel good about what they're doing.
Yeah, no, I mean, you guys have always focused very much on the flow, certainly of the event and what people are going to experience, and I think it's that same clarity and that same sort of discipline and focus that you're trying to achieve, and it has achieved results. I remember probably that was the first one. I think it was the first Wish Ball. So I don't know, this is kind of an aggressive schedule. I don't know if we're going to make it on time. And we were laughing about it. Like, it's a lot. Let's see how it plays out. And I think we were like 3 minutes early. And we were shocked. We couldn't believe it, you know. But it was very much a well-run program. And I think all of the audience and the participants, they really felt more like participants instead of just an audience.
Yeah.
and they were really engaged. And that's different than a lot of the events we do. You know, they're there for the networking, or they're there for the open bar.
And that's part of it. Absolutely.
It's all part of it.
It's a good time.
Marissa's very happy with that.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, but it's a part of it. It's not all of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key is you know, the focus. You know, just a little side story, because I've never seen this in the. I think I probably worked on 10,000 events over the course of my 16 years. This has only happened one time. We did an event actually at Tappan Hill. Abigail Kirsch was handling the catering, and excellent organization. And we did the event over there, and it was a great program as always. I mean, it really was. But Tom, why don't you tell them what happened at that event? Because I've never seen that happen before.
So the way we broke it up at Tappan Hill, we had the event in the room, and we shared the wish stories. And I think that night we shared the wish of a kid wanted to be a firefighter, who actually trained with the FDNY. He's a volunteer firefighter from Ulster County. And
Michael?
Yeah, Michael. And Michael actually went to a firehouse, and they treated him as a probie. He had to do the dishes. He had the thing he hated most was broccoli, so they gave him a big bowl of broccoli. And they geared him up, and lo and behold, the alarm went off. And they said, "Probie, get on the truck." And I'm sitting there with Denise, who's in charge of programs, and we looked at each other. The kid's going on a call. I said, "Well, we just violated 64 Make-A-Wish rules and 38 FDNY rules." But that wish was so great. So at the end of the evening, we were done and moving to the band and having drinks afterwards. And the maitre d' from Abigail Kirsch came out and said, "The head waiter wants to give you a gift. All the wait staff tonight are giving back their tips to Make-A-Wish." And I said, "I will only accept it on one condition. The entire staff comes out and gets a Make-A-Wish hug from me." And I've never seen any, and about 25 of that staff, Mo, you remember that, came out, and I thanked them, and I said, "We made a lot of money tonight, but you know, this is just as meaningful as the guy that gave me $5,000, and we appreciate what you do." But I was so moved by that, and it was touching. The message got to them as they worked that night, and that's a memory we always share very often, very special.
Yeah, well, it really was. It was truly unique. It was a very special moment. Tom, you noticed you didn't see any of the AV guys reaching in their pocket, did you?
No,
They are cheap, man, cheap. Those AV guys. But the wait staff, they're good, though. But joking aside, I mean, it's because of the clarity of the mission and the fact that you're able to convey it and communicate that. Now, you had mentioned it, and you can tell, too. You mentioned that you were in the corporate world prior.
Mm-hmm.
And you had said HR and communications, and certainly I think you have some sense of the financials as well because of the board of director work and everything else.
Yep.
What was different about your leadership roles in corporate America?
Yeah, and leadership roles in corporate America are a little bit different. You have a higher pecking order, your boss to the boss, and I was fortunate in my last job in corporate America. I reported directly to the chairman of and CEO because he didn't want me involved in politics. He wanted somebody who was going to give him a straight scoop and not BS him, and I guess I fulfilled that role. And when he gave a speech, he said, "How do you think it went?" I said, "It really wasn't that good." He hired a writer after that, for that, and I told him, "They need to hear from you." And then after that, he changed and went there. So my goal was up. Here I have multiple constituencies. Obviously, our WISH families and dealing with them, our medical people, WISH parents, WISH kids, our staff. You got to empower. I give them a lot of leeway. They know what the mission is. Go do your jobs. I will not micromanage. And I will be very honest with them. There's certain things I know and I'll make a decision on, and certain things I'll tell them, that's not my expertise, so I'm going to go with your recommendation. If there's a problem, I want to hear what their recommendation is. Just don't tell me there's a problem. How are we going to solve it? And they've learned, here's the problem, Tom, and we have two options. And I'll say, fine, which one do you recommend? And usually their instinct will be to pick the right one. So you empower the staff. The board is really interesting because I have 20 bosses. Technically, each director is a member of the board is my boss. And I've gotten to know some of them. I help recruit some of them. but it's all about the mission too. One of the best compliments we got was from our outside counsel who, last time, did you have a lawyer that worked for free for 10 years? He's been our lawyer and hasn't charged us anything. He says, I come to the board meetings because what I like about this board is everybody checks their egos at the door and focuses on the mission. So I'm dealing with different people with different backgrounds, CPAs and doctors and entrepreneurs and businessmen, and they all have different priorities and questions, and my job is to be able to answer or translate each of them. So I've got multiple audiences that I have to balance almost simultaneously.
And is that very different than the corporate?
Yeah, because it was all the political up down. What are the numbers? Here, it's a wider breadth, and it's a more of a balancing act between all those constituencies there.
I would imagine you're still able to transfer some of the skills, though, from the corporate side to, the nonprofit world.
Yeah, and one of my favorite ones is when I talked to Joe the first time. So we were quoting on an event. So I said, okay. I said, Joe, I said, how about I give you 5 events? I commit to 5 events. Can we do a deal? And the look that you gave me. So wait a minute. I don't think I've heard this before because I knew what was coming up in the pipeline, and I said, let's sit down and talk about it. So those kind of corporate experiences stand you in good stead. I had a conversation once with another vendor, and the guy looked at me and says, you weren't always in not-for-profit. And I said, no, I wasn't. But those skills that you learn on the corporate side, the run of show and how you run events and how you communicate, a lot of those are really transferable. And the contacts I've made over the years, I've lived up here for 50 years, and tapping them in now as the head of Make-A-Wish is a completely different conversation.
Well, no, that makes sense. I mean, because in the corporate world, you usually kind of have less. You're focused on one thing, and so you have to really dig into the one thing, has been my personal experience, which there are advantages and disadvantages. It just depends on the experience. Whereas once you start going into a different place, like the nonprofit side, production is actually more like the nonprofit side in the sense that whatever needs to be done needs to be done. And it may be, we joke about it all the time, saying that, look, okay, and here my job is this, but if we're on a job site, we're on an event, then our technical team is really in charge, and you just tell me what you need me to do. You need me to play light switch guy today? I'm light switch guy. If it's point that camera over there, then whatever Dean and Maurice and Artie tell me what to do, that's what I got to do.
Same thing, Joe, with our staff. When one of the staff members is in charge of event or anything, my question is, what do you need me to do? It's your event. And you empower them, and they take ownership. Instead of me telling them, you're going to do this, it's your event, you just come back and tell me what you want to do.
And does all of your team respond to that?
Yes. And a lot of them has to, because there's so few of us, they've got to make decisions on their own. The key in a leadership situation there is helping them to understand what they can do on their own and what they need to go to the next level to double check. And that's a learning experience. You want to empower them, but it's not total empowering.
Right. It's not a blank.
Exactly.
Right.
See how it's not a free-for-all.
Right.
So one of the things as a leader is on a day-by-day and different cases and different things, they'll get to learn. Tom likes it this way. Oh no, Tom needs to know about this. And that way they have free reign to do what they know, but they know there are certain things because they may not know something else is going on that's going to impact that I know. And then we have the dialogue. But that's a key thing to teach, especially for the younger kids coming out of school and everything. You can go to this level, but there are times when you need just to double check.
Well, and I think that's probably the best way for everybody to learn, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because you have your range and you know where you can work and succeed, and then there are things that you just aren't going to have all the information on.
Right.
And I think that's just the nature of each person's role. Are there other challenges with the nonprofit world as far as leadership?
Well, sure.
Different than the corporate world?
Yeah. Well, you're dealing fundraising is you don't do fundraising in the corporate world.
No, they call that sales.
They call that sales. Yeah, it's a little different, but it's really translating, and very often we'll deal with companies or corporations who want to know what's in it for me to support your charity from a business standpoint. So we take those opportunities, and that's where my corporate experience comes back in. And I'll sit down. It was a bank I was talking to, and I said, we'd like you to be part of this particular event. And he said, what's in it for me? I said, well, first of all, I said, our brand is better known than your brand. Secondly, wherever your branches are here in the Hudson Valley, we're there. It's part of our chapter. We have a Wish family. We have volunteers. They go to your banks. They deposit their money. They do their fundraisers. And I said, being partnered with Make-A-Wish, because there is a reputation that you're being partner of, we have a value that we bring to the table. It's not just a handout from corporate America or a company to us. We bring something to the table on a strategic alliance basis. And it's a business discussion then. Mm-hmm. You know, and in fact, when I did one pitch, I said, and if you want to know about the impact of our mission, it was to another bank. I said, this lady in your branch is a Wish mom. You go talk to her. And it kind of brought it home that one of their employees was actually a Wish mom. So bringing those connections together are really important.
Well, but that would come from that corporate background too. You have to gather the information that's going to apply to the situation, right?
Yep, exactly.
You know, and the fact that you knew that there was a Wish mom that worked within their team and then connected the dots for them. And I find that that's part of the message that sometimes gets lost, is that you really have to connect, when we hold these events, especially in a fundraising side, that you have to connect the dots for people. You have to connect the fundraising to the cause. And so that's where, if that mission's not so clear, or maybe it's changing, you know, that does happen in the corporate side. They change their message a lot. So nonprofit shouldn't, theoretically. But I think that gets lost sometimes, because you really have to connect the dots for people.
Yeah.
You know, so the fact that you did that research at a time, I think that comes from that corporate side. And because you would do that in HR, right?
Exactly.
And communications?
Yes.
Same exact thing. But do a lot of your people have any of those backgrounds?
Some of them are, not a lot of them. I think when I was on the board and this position opened, and my wife said to me, this is really something you should do, it really helps, because at a board meeting, you know, obviously you're dealing with financials, and I've got CPAs and bank people. Because of my corporate background, I'm able to have the conversation with them on some of the items and be able to have a dialogue with them. It's not like they're just doing it for us. So that has really helped me an awful lot.
Now, what about leading volunteers? Because that's a whole nother world. In corporate, it's like, you know, I have this conversation with my cousin sometimes. He's in the military. And I said, well, what's harder, moving stuff? Because he was in charge of supplies. You know, there'd be tons, literally tons and tons of supplies every day. I said, what's harder, supplies, moving supplies, or moving people? He said, supplies. I said, absolutely not. I said, only in the military. Because in the military, if I tell you to do something, you have to do it.
Yeah.
But that's not the way it really works everywhere else.
Yeah.
Volunteers are a whole nother job.
Yeah, volunteers are a little different, and we're very blessed because we have Abe Almanza, who's in charge of our volunteer management program, and Jillian Rodriguez. Abe is married, got a couple kids, but Abe is a Wish kid. And he had his wish back in the late 90s to be in the middle of the ocean on the 4th of July. He beat stage 4 lung cancer. And you couldn't have a better person leading your volunteers. From my standpoint, one of the key things for me, whenever there is an event, whether it's internal, external, or a wish, that they're in the wish house picking up supplies, to thank them. That's my job. I'll go around afterwards and just thank them for what they do. And that's another thing I do every day at the wish house. And one employee mentioned it to me. Whenever I leave at the end of the day, whoever's still in the wish house, I will thank them for their help for that day. And that's just the way I did. That's the way I was raised. And one employee came to me one day and said, I worked in 3 other jobs and nobody ever does that, but I want you to know it's appreciated. So for the volunteers, it's the same thing. Let them know how important they are. Thank them, whether it's crazy walk or it's the wish ball where there's 40 volunteers working the wish ball. And you know, when I'm doing a wish ball, I'm up there talking, and I'll mention a volunteer by name. just to identify and let them know you're appreciated. That's primarily my role, because the staff are the ones that do that. Our volunteers, when they sign up, have to go through orientation, background screening, as anybody would. Then they get to work a few events. And then if they want to do wish granting, you're going to be interviewed. Abe will be the interviewer, and to see if you have the skill sets. Because as a volunteer, you're going to a house that's dealing with a child with a critical illness. There are dynamics you need to be aware of. And as much as you may want to do that, you just may not have the skills. And our first allegiance is to those wish families. But once you find out, we got some great wish granters. When they're in there, they're just absolutely the best. So my job, Joe, I think is to, if you walk into the wish house today, this was done during the pandemic, when we had downtime, one of our staff members wrote the first name of 300 of our volunteers on the big blackboard. So now when those volunteers come in, their name is on the blackboard. So it's that kind of recognition from the staff and from myself that keeps them engaged, and that's our job, is to keep them motivated.
Well, that's what they say is a mark of true leadership, is being able to lead volunteers, people who don't have to do something.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've noticed the commitment level, certainly from being at the events of the volunteers, and just how engaged. And of course, you know, Abe is leading them like crazy, you know, but Abe's good at that, and he certainly is the right person to do it, you know. But leading those people, acknowledging them, and building their trust, and I think just sincerity, overall sincerity, I think is a big part of it. And that's definitely, you're authentic, you're sincere, and I think that
Thank you.
everyone can feel that. You know, and the fact that you're also doing good things for children that are having a tough time, certainly in their families at that moment, I think makes it all the easier, probably to like, you know, to like everyone. But either way, not every day is rosy.
No.
And I'm sure, just due to the emotional involvement with your particular clientele, I'm sure there are some tough days.
Yeah, there are tough days. There are days when we lose kids, and we've lost some recently, and we know their wishes. In fact, it was, and you guys know Mo and Joe, when we had Frank Wildhorn doing the concert at our last Wish Ball, we had 4 kids sing one of his songs, and one of those kids just recently passed away. But they'll always remember that day at the Wish Ball. They were singing a song by a man who had 3 shows on Broadway simultaneously, the first one ever to do that. Yeah. So those are tough days. And there are days sometimes when wishes go wrong. Either the connection is missed, or a storm, or things of that nature. It can be frustrating, and you got to deal with it. Yeah, and sometimes the stress when you're dealing with so many and dealing with that. So you have good days and you have bad days.
Well, and how do you guide the team through those challenging times?
Yeah, the key is to make sure we celebrate the real good ones. You know, when somebody does an exceptional wish, you know, just drop them a note and go by and say, you know, Elena, that was fantastic. I mean, how you pull that off is beyond me. You know, that's all they need, you know, because they know they're doing right. They know what they're doing. But to have it acknowledged is the key. And all the people that you get involved in it. You pick them up, so you celebrate the days, and you be there and say, that was a tough one. Appreciate all you did on that one, but thank you for all the effort. And you just hang in there and share the sorrows. We all feel the loss when we lose a kid, and we tell stories about them, and we got to move on, because now there's another 200 kids waiting for wishes.
Do you think the other chapters, was it 49 chapters, 56 chapters?
Yeah, 50 chapters.
Do you think the other chapters have the same kind of environment?
Yeah, I would hope so. I know a lot of my CEOs. There are different personalities and talents and skills, but the message and the mission is pretty much the same throughout. And you know, we'll steal shamelessly from each other on what works and what doesn't work.
Right?
It's okay. It's definitely okay. So the answer is, yeah, I think there's something about this mission and dealing with the people that we do that you're going to see a commonality across the board. And in terms of how we do wishes, we've all agreed to abide by certain procedures and protocols, so all the wishes are the same. So a kid from Texas is not going to get a different wish when they go to Disney than a kid from New Mexico. They're all the same, and we all share that same message. And we help each other. So if we had a kid coming in from another chapter to come here and go to a dude ranch, and we'll be the host chapter, and we'll take care of them. And conversely, we had a kid go to Japan. He wanted to meet the head engineer at Honda. and I wanted to meet the robot Asimo. So we'll call Make-A-Wish Japan, and they'll do the same thing on that end. So there is that kind of thing. It's pretty cool.
Well, it's funny because part of this particular, you say stealing, ideas and
Stealing shamelessly.
Yeah, well, part of the idea behind what we've been doing these last 2 days, and you have a good sense of what we do here with Pirate University, but the last 18 months has been very different for people in the production community because all the events were stopped and everything was closed. And so, you're talking about thousands and thousands of people who were displaced. And so what started to form, we had several gentlemen on yesterday. Omar is down in Florida. Jeff is in, I think, Kansas City. I know he's in the Kansas area. We had someone on today from Annapolis. We've had people joining us. Rohit's in India. We had a friend yesterday from Fastlane AV that's out in Ireland. We've had a lot of people joining us. The production community has been trying to educate itself and share ideas. And we've had a whole bunch of different people on because of that, because they had to learn another way to do things.
Yeah.
And that's been the focus of this particular event, is we're combining in person on a live stage with a live audience with remote people, presenting and watching. And there's a lot of confusion that can go with that.
Yeah.
And so it's a matter of we're trying to share and educate, our production friends all around. And it grows the opportunities for everyone, and that's part of the idea.
Yeah, we've had the same thing, Joe, with the granting wishes in a pandemic. We used to, when a child is referred to us by a medical professional or the families themselves, we send out 2 trained wish granters. And when they go for that first visit, they will bring toys that are age appropriate for the child and the brothers and sisters. Because in a family, the sick child gets all the attention and the brothers and sisters are usually forgotten. And that initial meeting, just kind of icebreakers and conversations. But now we had to do it virtually. And our volunteers stepped up to have the interview done through Zoom or Microsoft Teams or whatever it was. It was a learning experience for them. And we were still able to grant wishes. And then when we did like an in-person wish, protocols and masks and who's coming, Mr. and Mrs. Claus is going to come at 1:30. This other one's going to come. You can't have all the people. So we all had to adapt the same way.
Yeah.
As sure people had to do during the pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, everybody had to make their adjustments.
Yes.
I think that's the bottom line. And, we'll see how that progresses from here. That's not the topic of today's discussion, so, because I don't think anybody knows. We could barely make it through the morning, otherwise,
I'm just glad
we're
to
not
get
looking
here.
forward that far
I'm just
ahead.
glad to get here before showtime, that's all.
But, I only got a few more things for you, Tom, but I do want to just make a quick point for everyone. You have seen on the screens all throughout and in the reception area, everywhere you've seen, we've discussed, there are ways that you can text to donate or go right to our page. I'm just going to remind you guys, I'm just going to shamelessly remind you again that you can text Pirate U to 833-562-0429. I am sure that you can find it all over the page. We have it in about 100 different spots. They're trying to make it easy for you to do. All of the proceeds from the event are going to go to Tom's group and his team at Make-A-Wish Hudson Valley. And we're hoping that maybe we can try to, be a part of the solution and maybe help try to fund one of these wishes so that they can hit that 3,000 as quick as possible.
So let me just piggyback on what Joe's saying. For those of you who are thinking about it, we hope you do. For those of you who have, on behalf of the Wish families that you will impact, I want to say thank you. We have now over 200 pending wishes right now that we have to address. And once travel starts to come up from first phase beginning in September, there will be an onslaught, so we could really use your help. And the only thing I want to share with you is, during this pandemic, all of us have experienced fear and uncertainty. I mean, we've lived that for the last 18 months. Now take a Wish family who, because of a child with a critical illness, has their fear and uncertainty on top of a pandemic. What they're dealing with is absolutely incredible. So what you're doing today, if you make any donation, whatever it is, I will tell you honestly, that you're bringing hope to these kids right now who really need it. Because when we call them and say, we're coming, you can have a wish. What happens is, instead of being told when to get up, when to go to bed, when medicine to take, what to wear, what not to do, what you can play, what you can't play, the wish kid's in charge. They get to pick. Do I want to meet a celebrity? Do I want to go to Disney? Do I want to have a room makeover, my own place? We've done she sheds and man caves for that. So, it gives them hope. So your contribution is going to allow us to bring hope to those families who right now, in the middle of what they're dealing with, in the middle of a pandemic, one parent said, it's the best phone call we ever get is when the wish granters are on the phone and talk about my son's wish. So thank you to all of you who have donated and are considering donating.
That's great. Well, I mean, you couldn't hear it from anybody better than Tom. After 20 years, he's living and breathing it every single day. So it is true. Tom, I don't know if you're aware of this, but Maurice is a celebrity. He was on CBS several times.
I know. I jumped up and down when I saw him on CBS. I said, my God, that's Mo.
I mean, sometimes I ask for his signature, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very famous, very famous.
I like yours better. Just wanted to check.
Yeah. We're not giving you the mic next. We're not giving you the mic. But before, we're going to take a couple of questions in a few minutes. But I guess before we get there, any last thoughts on things that would apply as far as leadership, whether it's in any type of environment? Because most things I think in leadership carry through. I mean, of course, certain environments require certain techniques or measures, but anything you think is helpful to our audience?
Yeah, I think for us at Make-A-Wish, it's keep the focus on the mission. As long as you keep the focus on the mission, sometimes we'll deal with different issues, and we're getting, well, this one can do this, and then we say, wait a minute, what's the right thing for the wish kid in this case? So I think as leaders, to make sure your people continually are focused on the mission, then you're going to be fine. And you'll find out, who your strong staff people are too when they get the same focus and the kind of view. So to me, it's always been each day, it's focus on the mission. And as I said, one of the best parts about our mission statement, the first word is together. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. And as far as here in Hudson Valley, you guys are part of our Together, have been for over a decade, and hopefully we'll continue that relationship over the years.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, it's an honor to be part of it, and like I said, we really do feel a part of it. So that's, but mainly because of that focus on the mission. I think a lot of groups could learn from that, and kind of, if you keep the most important thing, that usually plays out to succeed. But Tom, I'm going to warn you, I don't know what's going to happen next, but are there any questions from our live or online audience? Good luck, Tom.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
They don't call them pirates for no reason. So.
I know that most of the time, obviously, as a leader, what people are really looking for from you is a decision. They want you to make a decision. But I know that sometimes your people are looking for something more. They're looking for guidance, or they're looking for some kind of morale improvement, or something that to keep them going, some advice or something like that. How do you know when they need that and they don't tell you?
Well, I think it's two things. One, if you know your people well enough, you'll be able to see. I mean, they're late a couple of days or just dragging a little bit. But one of the other things I try to do so we don't get to that position is involve them in certain things that they might not ordinarily be involved in. I'll give you a great example. Colonel Mike Quinn is a wish dad who came to us, who's going to give us a donation. And I invited two of the staff to be part of our conversation. And he shared some stories. And normally it's be Mike and I, but these two people are critical. And we didn't know what he was going to be giving us. He now is out in Tucson, Arizona. So I said to the two girls, I said, Sydney, Grace, you want to sit in the session? Can we? And they loved it. And at the end of the session, he presented me a check. He said, well, it's the 35th anniversary for Make-A-Wish, and you're retiring. So on behalf of my son's foundation. Here's a check for $35,000. And the joy of the two of them being part of that will pay dividends for a long time. I love hearing them telling the story now because they were there and they experienced it. And they were trying to figure out who cried more, me or Mike. It was kind of close. The two of us, we're both over 6'2" and 6'3" and over 250 pounds, and it was quite a scene. So to your answer is, you need to know your people and then engage them on opportunities like that give them that extra juice, that little bonus that they're not going to see on a daily basis. That's just my 2 cents.
I think that's it's the Hootie and the Blowfish. It's the D. Snyder. Johnny Clark, was it D. Snyder? Was that one of the first gigs? Snyder, yeah. Yeah. For us, sometimes it's when someone who's starting out gets to be a part of some kind of name brand act, and we have to sometimes remind them they're not all Hootie and the Blowfish. They're not all D. Snyder, but it adds a level of energy that is hard to replicate.
Yeah, and seeing them tell the story now is great.
Wow, that's pretty cool. That was pretty cool. You gentlemen have, or ladies have another question, or is there anything online?
Hi, Tom.
Hi.
Hi. So looking ahead into the future, right, is there a hope or a wish that you have for your organization, be it 10, 20, 30 years into the future? Is there something that you hope develops, whether it's for your chapter or the group, organization at large?
It's a great question. I think the organization is going to continue to grow. Unfortunately, there are still a lot of sick kids. One thing I'd love to clear up whenever I get the chance, I should have done it earlier, is a lot of people believe Make-A-Wish is only for dying kids. It's about 40% of the population believes that. That's how it started out initially, and now it's for kids with critical illnesses. And the medical technology has grown to the point where so many of them survive. Now, as I said, we've lost some recently, but my first wish is that the population in general would come to the realization that Make-A-Wish is not just a dying wish. It really is for all the kids facing critical illnesses, number one. And number two, I think it is going to grow, and I think once you get involved in it, you're going to say, hey, I'm glad I'm here. And I just hope as this chapter is going to grow. We got a good staff now. The search is on for a new CEO, and I think we've got a good board, and recruiting the right people to keep it going is going to be great. So when I come back and visit periodically, I'm going to take great joy in seeing how it's going to the next level. That'd be my wish.
Yeah, that's great. Well, and you're already planning on being active in some capacity.
Make-A-Wish will always be a part of who I am.
I think it would be hard not to. I mean, honestly. But do we have anything online? Do we have any other thoughts? I mean, it took him a long time to get over here from
okay.
5 miles away, so I don't want to tie him up all day. Who knows what's happening outside right now?
Tom, Mo here.
Yes, Mo.
You're going to retire. What are going to be the first or the most inspirational thing that you're going to give to your person that you're passing the baton to? What would you give them so we can have the same relation and the memories that we have of you going forward?
It's a great question, Mo. And one of the reasons I announced early, it was back in February, and I did it for 2 reasons. One is I've seen in other chapters where a CEO is, given 2 weeks' notice or 30 days, and it's not fair to a board of directors for a not-for-profit to find a candidate and not doing the due diligence that is required, that should be required to fill this position. So I'm glad I did that, and it's going. It's longer than they anticipated, but they're doing it the right way. My plan is, again, at the end, they'll reach the decision relatively soon, is to get them to meet my contacts, to get them to meet the Joes and the Moes and the people at Subaru. I mean, one guy, we have a relationship with Subaru. It's a national sponsor, and one of the guys at the dealerships, he said, now, you're going to bring your successor over so we can meet him or her, so we have the same relationship there. I said, yes, I will do that. So that's going to be a large part of what I do toward the end of the year and probably into 2022, because that continuity, you know, as we were saying before, it's partnerships. It's, you know, it's fundraising is relationships. You know, when I walk in the room, they know I'm Make-A-Wish, you know, and they know what I'm there for. And the people that I've made contacts with and brought into the Make-A-Wish world over the last 17 years, I can't leave them there. In fact, when I did announce, I sent out a private email to about 40 people who have touched me over the last 17 years to let them know that I had made that decision and shared with the board, and I wanted them to hear it from me, because I said each of you in your own way has inspired me or encouraged me in my role, and that list I will pass on to also my successor.
I thought you were going to ask him something about the Giants. I mean,
I already got that.
all right.
I don't want to do that to you, Joe.
Listen, I have hopes right now. I think my team has got some hope. That's not impressive. Okay, don't be happy with 8 and 8. Well, listen, I like I said, I appreciate you being here, Tom. I mean, we've really enjoyed, you know, the time that we've spent working with you. I've always admired your focus and what you want to try to accomplish, and felt like we were really a part of that. And you know, so I appreciate that. I like everything to go to plan, and I like having a plan, you know. So it's been a real pleasure, you know, and I think you have left it significantly better than how you started. And if that's the goal, I think you've achieved.
Much appreciated, and enjoy being with you. You're my guys. You know, I feel very comfortable when I'm on Showtime. I know you got my back, because when I do an auction, you know, everybody says, you know, it's easy to do an auction. I'm standing up there, and I've got 300 people looking at me. And we better have the energy in the room and the electricity in the room to generate the funds that we want to do. And you guys help us generate that electricity and get that message out. So you have been, are, and always will be part of the Make-A-Wish family.
Well, very good. Well, listen, we're going to wrap up. Everybody, again, if you get a chance, go to the Text Pirate U number that's listed right there. If you can, again, donate whatever you can. And we're going to wrap up. We're actually going to be going to, there's a Pirate Lounge. You guys can go into one of the sessions. If you go down the left side, you can go to the session. That's just an open Zoom-like experience. Anybody can jump on screen, share cameras, share sound. And, you know, let's just have a conversation, be a part of things. We'll celebrate, you know, the things we've learned. If you have other things that you're looking to, other information you're looking to get, just put it right there in the chat. We're going to do some follow-ups afterwards. I know that there are some requests on vMix. We're going to send out some recordings. There's a replay button on the lowest level. Click on that. You'll see all the different recordings from yesterday morning, today, especially the hands-on demos, if you joined on the online portion afterwards. So once again, thank you, Tom Conklin. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we're going to wrap up from the main stage. So thank you all for joining us at Pirate University and with Tom Conklin. And we'll see you over in the lounge.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.